WP Engine, and I'm super delighted to be your co-host with my esteemed colleague Rob Stinson for this session. We have a fantastic agenda lined up for you where we will explore the power of advanced custom fields, ACF, and how it can transform your WordPress experience. Whether you're a developer, a designer, a content creator, this session is tailored for just for you. Before we dive into this exciting world of ACF, a little bit of housekeeping for us today. Today's session is being recorded so you can relive the magic later. And for those who couldn't make it as well. Also keep an eye out on your inbox because we'll be sending the recording, ensuring that the knowledge shared today remains at your fingertips. But that's not all. We value your insights and opinions. So after the session, please take a moment to fill out your feedback form. Your feedback is invaluable to us, helping us improve and cater to your interests better in the future. So without further ado, I'll pass the mic over to my colleague, Rob. He'll be leading on today's session. Over to you, Rob.
Thanks, Stuart. Hey, everyone. It's good to be here. It's 12:03 p.m. So I almost said this morning, but I will say this afternoon. Someone just said they've dialed in at 4 a.m. Where they are from South Africa. Yeah, respect. Thank you for dialing in at 4 a.m. I appreciate that. That's a big effort. Today's going to be a good one. We are talking about advanced custom fields, a beloved plugin in the WordPress space. I'm curious, actually, if in chat, if you want to say yes or no, if you have worked with ACF before, advanced custom fields. Ricky, I know you have, mate. And whilst you're doing that, I'm going to share my screen so you can see all the cool stuff I've planned. Couple people, yes, aware of it. All right, cool. Good stuff. Well, Zoom is great at just throwing up all sorts of things in the way of the screen as you're sharing. Let me close that. Let me click this button and let's get started. So my name is Rob Stinson. I work at WP Engine. I'm one of the product marketers and I work with all of our product teams in the builder experience sort of business group. And one of our absolute heroes that we have within this group is Advanced Custom Fields. Now, many people are aware of this, but Advanced Custom Fields was acquired by WP Engine about just a little over 12 months ago, actually, along with Delicious Brains, which was the company, and a number of their other plugins. Advanced Custom Fields came along to WP Engine and joined the team, which was huge. It was super exciting. If you are familiar with advanced custom fields, you'll know that it is not an insignificant piece of technology. It's been around for over 10 years. And it was really one of the OG sort of plugins that really stepped in. WordPress had some traction, but was still kind of compared to where we are today with WordPress, still early days. Agencies were really starting to take it and do interesting things. And what ACF came along and did was really extend what agencies and freelancers or anyone who was building a site from a technical perspective really extended what they could do with WordPress, which is fantastic. So this Advanced Custom Fields, fantastic plugin, huge legacy. Like I said, like we have here, over 4.5 million sites use ACF. And when I say use ACF, it's always I always want to stop on that and sort of unpack that a bit, because ACF is not just some turn it on and it runs in the background kind of plugin, but it's very central to the way folks build with WordPress. I have spoken to countless agencies and freelancers over the years, and like, I say, what do you do? How do you do with WordPress? And some of them might say a page builder or something else, but so many of them would say, yeah, we use ACF to build with WordPress. And it's almost like WordPress is the foundation, but then ACF is the next, the subframe of the building or something like that. You take that metaphor wherever you want. But ACF is, like I say, is very central. So knowing that it's on so many sites, it's huge for us. And so super exciting. Funnily enough, anecdote, I know Elliot, founder of ACF, quite well. We're good friends. And I known him for many years. And there was this moment in time where I found out that the company I was working for was acquiring his plugin, and it was serendipity or something. It's good. So a great plugin that is, like I said, now part of the WP Engine family. So I'm going to show you a whole bunch of things today about ACF. Now, if you are familiar with it, some of these things you'll already know. But I think I have like 12 different things. I can almost guarantee that even if you're using ACF every single day for your work, you're still going to learn something today. There's lots to unpack, lots of really, really cool stuff. We're going to look at some like older features that are actually sort of fantastic anyway, and not everyone knows about them. We're also going to look at some newer features that have even just rolled out in the last 12 months since the acquisition, when you came and joined WP Engine. In the last 12 months have been really, really cool. Like the team we've invested in them. We've really sort of lit a bit of a fire, and resource them and to sort of really accelerate feature releases over the last 12 months. So I'm going to show you some stuff there, and even give you a little bit of a sneak peek at some stuff that is around the corner at the end. That's the thing. That's right at the end. So now you got to hang around for the whole webinar, because that's what you were waiting for. But today I'm going to show you a fictional site that we're going to play around with. And as I unpack some of these features, I'll show you it rather than we're not just going to look at slides. We're going to look at actual in the WordPress admin. We're going to look at code, make it a little bit interactive. But we have this fictional site, the VHS Awards site. And this website is a celebration of the greatest decade of film in the history of mankind, the 90s. And this website is all about showcasing the top 100 films. Folks can, or readers of the site can submit votes, and over a period of some months, let's say, that the votes are tallied up, and ultimately the top 100 films in the 90s are ranked from 1 down to 100 and things like that. But if you're familiar with WordPress, we've got like some custom post types, custom fields, interesting custom blocks, and all sorts of things going on here. So it's a good example case to use to unpack the features that we're going to look at. So first of all, we're going to look at some good old stuff within ACF. So this again is been around from the beginning, that you'll be familiar with. I think if you're new to it, new to ACF, you're not particularly familiar with ACF as well, this will be good for you to begin with. So of course, the origins of advanced custom fields is all around fields. It's kind of in the name, right? But the number one point is within ACF, we have field groups and fields. And this is all about extending the content editing, data storing, and front-end templating potential of WordPress. Like within WordPress, we have, you have your posts, you might have your, if you create a post, you have the body of the post, you'll have a title, you'll have the author, the date it was published. So you've got the content, you've got these some pieces of we call metadata that are sort of stitched onto that post that allow it to be, queried and surfaced on the website in different ways. Field groups and fields are all about extending that metadata, extending it from the content editing experience. So if I'm on, if I'm looking at our VHS Awards site, and I'm entering in a movie, and I want to add the date or the year that film was released, I could just type it into the post, or I could actually have a field there where I could select the date, or I could type into 1995 or something like that. It gives me a more structured way of inputting the data from a content editing experience. But then on the templating side as well, like when I'm building out the template, however I decide to do that, which renders the front end, I can interact with that custom piece of metadata because of this custom field really easily. So that's in a nutshell what field groups and fields are. Easy to create them. You add custom fields. You assign that field group. So you create a field group, and I'll show you this in a moment. And then you fill it with fields, and then you can assign it to something. So I want these field groups to be associated with posts or pages, or in our case, our custom post type, movies. And then, of course, you can template with that. But let's just have a quick look. I'm going to jump out of the slides here. And once again, Zoom controls all in the grill. In here, WordPress admin, I would expect you to be familiar with it. I believe the only plugin I have active is ACF, so nice and clean and simple. And I have ACF field groups. I've got a couple here made earlier, but we have our movie field. So that is my movie field, is a field group that I created. And you can kind of see here, like there's the title of the film, description, thumbnail, which, it might be a poster or image or something like that of the film. The rank that you give it, that one's like a number field. as well. And then we have the rating, which is a button group, and that's where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's where we have those. Oops, excuse me. And then we have this director field as well. So what I'm going to do, delete that right now. I'm going to show you. Let's add the director field. So I have this field group with these custom fields, and I want to add another field to this. Oh my goodness, these zoom controls are wild. You can't see it, but they're like, all the little buttons and everything. Just all them away. Okay, here we go. So movie fields, add field. And we're gonna make this, like we have all of these options for different field types. Some simple ones like a text field or a text area, number, range, email, URL, password. These are generally one-to-one with sort of typical HTML elements. Different content types, so image, so you want to interact with the media, library of WordPress, file, etc., etc. And you got all these Boolean options, really cool relational stuff. We're going to look at this later. Some really interesting advanced things, maps, etc. And then some layout things. And my favorite is the repeater field. But for now, we're just actually going to keep this really, really simple. It's going to make it text, field label, director, field name, keep that as is, default value, that is fine. And then we're going to update changes. So that's basically it. That's like as simple as you like, really. You create a field group and add your fields. Now, I've assigned, as you can see down the bottom here, I've said I want these fields to appear when the post type is equal to movie. So if we go over here to movies, I click add new, we've got the basic sort of stuff here, but we can see all our custom fields down here at the bottom. You get a title, description, thumbnail, rank, rating, and there is director and Mr. Spielberg. Is it PH Stephen or V Stephen? I don't know. Today it's Stephen with a V. We'll just say the director of this movie that we're adding in. So it's as simple as that, right? So that is what it means to add in a field group and add fields. So let's continue. Like I said, we're starting simple, the basics. A lot of you I know will be already familiar with that. Field validation and condition. Now this is great actually, because this is where we can define if, when, and how our fields are made available to content editors. So this is about controlling the quality of our data. In the same way, like you might choose a number field because you explicitly only want to have numbers and you don't want someone to type in the word 4. You want them to actually select the number 4, so it's passed into the database as a number. But you can further control that and say, look, I only want, for instance, people to be able to enter the number between 1 and 10. So you might have like or 1 and 5, like we have our 5-star rating system. We want to, we want the content editor to only be able to enter 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. We don't want them to accidentally enter 50 or 500 or something else like that. So field validation and our conditions are around that. That's an example of that, where we can better control the content editing experience at the point of data input. So with that, we know that what gets passed through to the database is clean and represents the kind of data that we want ultimately to be able to template with on the front end. This is really useful, especially for when the complexity of your site increases. Our VHS award site, it's not crazy complex, but there's a few things going on. You can imagine this was like a big site, an annual awards thing, and there were thousands of people voting. The features were fairly rich and dynamic, and that okay, we need to be really structured and careful with the way that we manage our data here. Field validation conditions and things like that help us maintain the site efficiently for when our complexity of the site increases. Number 3, we're going to do a bit of demo stuff here, is custom blocks. So this feature within ACF came around 4-ish years ago, so pre-joining WP Engine, but it was right about a year or so after the block editor, or Gutenberg, as it's sort of known to some as, sort of became merged with Core, and people were starting to explore this new block-centric world of WordPress, what it meant. And obviously there was a real JavaScript transition for the typical WordPress developer. Like, all right, we've been building with WordPress for years and years, classic PHP template hierarchy, everyone knows and loves it, but we want to lean in on the block editor. for good reasons. And the core blocks at the time were good. They've certainly improved since that time as well. But and you can do a lot with it. But sometimes you need a block that looks and behaves in a particular way, because you're working with a really great designer. They've designed something for you, and you're like, look, we're going to have to write some pretty cool custom CSS here to make it look like that. We obviously can't maneuver the core blocks the way we want. It's better for us to build a custom block. Or you might be doing some really interesting integration. WooCommerce store, you might want to represent some WooCommerce data in some very unique way that the Woo blocks doesn't facilitate. Therefore, you want to build a custom block. Or you know what? You're even integrating with a third-party application through an API, and you're bringing data in and representing something like that. And of course, you need to build something from scratch here. Now, you can do all of that within JavaScript. There are great React libraries available, especially as the block editor has matured. But the great and awesome thing about ACF is that it empowers PHP developers to do incredible things. And look, to be honest, I know plenty of agencies and freelancer folks that are very familiar with JavaScript, but are very much happy to lean in on what ACF does, because it just shortens that develop and build sort of experience. It's got some really good assumptions about how things should be done, and for folks that are happy to lean in on that, it really shortcuts and streamlines the way that you can build out custom blocks. So a lot of this is in the UI of the admin. A lot of it's a bit of code. So let's just have a quick. Let's have a look. Let us have a look. So first of all, I've got here VS Code, and there's many ways that you can sort of place your custom block template files and configuration files. You can put them in a child theme. You can put them in plugins. Just for simplicity's sake, I've got a child theme here for the 2023 theme. So I've got a child theme. I've got a directory with blocks. And then I've actually got 3 custom blocks in here. I've got one for a CTA or a call to action block, a movie card, and a movie list. But I'll just show you this one because it's probably the simplest. Actually, and also in my functions file, I have registered here those 3 blocks. So step 1 is we register our custom blocks with PHP, just like this. The second thing is we have a JSON configuration file, block.json. And this just sort of configures a few of the things around how our custom block will appear, be made available within the block editor. We then have a PHP template file, which is predominantly, HTML with some basic PHP in it. Basically, if you've worked with ACF in sort of classic theme templates, this is exactly the same. We are interacting with our fields as we set them up, and I'll go back over to the admin shortly. But as you can see here, we use the same sort of functions as you do like get field, etc., as you do normally with ACF. And then we have some custom CSS as well. I won't go through that because I don't want you all to judge my CSS. That'd be a bit harsh. But that's the structure of our template files, I should say, within our child theme. And then within our website, our VHS awards, what you do is, if we go to field groups, you can see you have our CTA block fields. And actually, what would make more sense is I should show you the block that we're actually going to make. So this custom block here is just this big blue call to action block. To be honest, you could probably do this fairly easily with core blocks, but I wanted to keep it simple just for the demonstration. And this is, to prompt visitors to the site to vote on their favorite film of the 90s. And we want to be able to drop this block on any page, into blog posts and everything like that, in the way that you do with blocks, that it's reusable and we're not having to recreate it, all the time from scratch. And for field wise, we want to be able to change the text. We want to change the text and destination, or target, I should say, of the button. And maybe we want to do some styling changes as well for the background. So in our field group, we have text for our call to action. There's the button text, there's the button link, and background color. You'll see that we've got 2 text fields, a URL field and a button group field, because their options for that are blue, yellow, and black. as defined by our, brand style guide. And the important thing here is, I just quickly jump back here. I don't want to switch back too fast because I know get a bit of whiplash. But because we have registered, we haven't registered here. We also have our block.json file. We have block is equal to, you can see the other two as well, but we have CTA. So that means with all of that stitched together, if we go edit page, that one, I don't know what that is, ignore it. You can see here, there is our custom block on this edit page. It's a bit crammed up. Again, don't judge my CSS. But if I was better at writing CSS, this is probably would have collapsed a little bit nicer. There's our text field, our vote today, the button text, the link, and there is our background color variations. So that is, I mean, like I said, you could probably build a better call to action block actually just using the core blocks itself. But nice and simple, but just showing you that, for the block editor, especially as the majority of modern WordPress sites are comfortably now using the block editor to create content, being able to create custom blocks, again, that look exactly as you need and then behave exactly as you need is really, really important. So super easy with ACF, especially if you're already familiar from, classic theming days. With the ACF development workflow, custom blocks with ACF is an absolute joy, to be honest. So good stuff. Let us continue. I'm going to just check chat to see if there's any cool questions about custom blocks. Not yet. All right. advancedcustomfield.com/resources/block if you want to learn more about that. Next one. Programmatically registering fields. This is a quick one. So we know the ACF interface where you add a field group and then you add your fields and then you assign it to a custom block. In that last example, you can do all that sort of stuff within the UI, which is fantastic. You actually do all that in code as well. And it depends on the use case. Sometimes it's better to do one or the other, but sometimes it is a great idea to register your field groups, fields, and their configurations within code. One is that it locks it down. And like you saw, I was just in the admin before clicking around and changing things. And if you're an agency or a freelancer and you have a client, sometimes that's okay to have that level of access passed through to the client. Sometimes it's not ideal. Sometimes you want to sort of lock down. You don't want them accidentally clicking around and deleting a field or changing it somehow. But it just gives you, as the web developer, I suppose, a little more control over what is passed through to the user interface. It also gives you version control. Now, people work in different ways. A lot of folks like to have this kind of stuff, site configuration within code, because it can be version control within Git. So massively good reason. And also, actually, it's worth pointing out as well, as I know that you can, I haven't done this for ages, so I can't demo it, but you can actually do things within the UI and then export it and then drop it into your code as well. So you don't necessarily have to write from scratch. That's kind of handy. More streamlined for dev collaboration. Again, version control, if you're using Git and you're collaborating with other developers, having that Git repo is obviously much more ideal. And interestingly, like if you're distributing like plugins or themes that have a dependency on ACF, having those fields and everything configured within your distributed plugin or theme is much better, rather than saying, hey, here's the plugin, but you also now need to set up these field groups and everything like this so my plugin works. You can just say, here's the plugin, and it's all good to go. Again, more details at that URL at the bottom of the slide there. If you miss the URL, just go to the Advanced Custom Fields website, click on documentation and search. Yeah, it's a good search facility on there. You'll be able to find it. All right, that was the old stuff, the good old stuff. Again, some of that would be maybe new to you, I'm not sure. But this new stuff is a lot of that has come out in just the last 12 months. All right, first one is a user interface for options pages. So this is actually a new thing for an old thing. So the ability, to create options pages with an ACF has been around for a while. An options page is basically a custom page in the WordPress admin where you can set up settings. So let's have, for kind of like site-wide, So let me give you a good example. Zoom stuff in the way. Oh, wrong one. Let's just, nope, no, I want to go to the main page. Let's have a look at, oh, I don't actually have it turned on at the moment. Okay, I'll look at it here. So if I go to, all right, site settings. Say I wanted to, it's not actually, I don't have it wide up at the moment, apologies, but say I wanted to have like a banner at the top of my website, something like, I can show you one because I know there's one on wpengine.com. See this top banner, right? Running along the top of the website. Say I wanted to sort of showcase some stuff, or I wanted to actually have a call to action for a special sale, like, Black Friday sale or something like that, that was sort of time bound. So I want to be able to turn it on and off. I want to be able to change the text and everything like that. But it wasn't page specific. It's like site wide. It's global. It's on every single page. And therefore, it's not typically the way you think about custom fields, which are associated with a specific post or a page. It's site wide. That is a great use case for an options page. And if we were thinking about our VHS awards, we might actually have a pencil banner at the top there that says something along the lines of "Vote closes in 3 days. Hurry up and vote." And that just sort of stuck to every page wherever the people navigated around the site. A promo bar, which is exactly what this is here. So I've just gone to the site settings, and I can toggle it on or off. I can put in the message, the button text. Again, there's the button link, and I might have some options for the type of notice, saying this one's a promo, or if I had a reason that I wanted to present an alert to all site visitors or something like that. So option, that's an example of an options page. I've seen some, this is super simple. I've seen some really, really great examples, especially from agencies that have built out sort of data themes, custom themes, and that have used options pages as the mechanism for passing like lots of the site-wide settings through to the customer for them to be able to configure for themselves. Like I said, you've been able to do this for a long time with ACF, but now you can do it, but you just have to be able to do it in code. That's the thing. You have to write all the code to do it. But now we have it within the UI itself. So under ACF, you've got option pages, and you can see this one that I've got here. We can add new, give it a title, menu slug, and you can actually nest them as well. So you don't just have to have one options page, but you could have, we could have site settings, and under site settings, we might have, site branding, and then, site contact details, or whatever. But we can actually have multiple options pages and nest them however we need and however we want to structure them, which is pretty cool. Let us continue. So that was the options page. Another great thing that came out with version 6.1, which was earlier this year, is custom post types within ACF, which is so a post, WordPress ships with posts and pages. Now in WordPress terminology, those are post type. They're a type of post. A little convoluted, but it is what it is. But for a long time, people have extended WordPress and by doing that, creating custom post types is a really typical thing. In our example, with our movies website, we have a custom post type for movies. And that means that we can contain and we can structure and then ultimately interact with that content within the database, in the way that we need and the way that we want for our website. This is great. You could do this for code with a long time. There've been third-party plugins for a long time that have done this and made this available to WordPress users. But we observed with ACF that a lot of the time when people were adding custom fields, they were also adding custom post types. And that was a really typical developer or site building sort of workflow. Broadly, we call content modeling. When you come to a site and you model out your content structure for your site or your web application. And very typically, we saw folks would add custom fields and they would also add custom post types. So for many years, people have been asking for that. And in version 6.1, earlier this year, we introduced that into the plugin. So let me show you that. You can see post types, and we can see our movies post type here. So movies, movie, a whole bunch of configuration sort of stuff, a bunch of advanced settings, basically everything that is available to us to do within, if we were to write the code to create a custom post type for WordPress, we have surfaced within the interface here, which is really cool. And you know what we're going to do? Let's add, this is, yes, this is the plural. Let's add a new one. Directors, director, taxonomies. Let's leave that now public. Let's just leave it simple. Save changes, and you can see our custom post type up here. Oh, and I was playing around a little bit earlier with this, and so there's one already in the database, and there's Mr. Steven Spielberg with a V. Again, need to verify if that is the correct spelling, but we'll roll with it. The director is a custom post type, and we have got, so now we can, in our database, we can create movies and we can create directors, and then we'll be able to sort of interact between them in interesting ways. I'm going to show you some of that a little bit later. So that's custom post types. Oh, it's also worth noticing that one of the reasons that we wanted to add custom post types as well is because we've seen more and more folks across the industry doing headless WordPress, and ACF was frequently a piece of their headless WordPress stack. And again, especially with headless, custom post types was just often something they did, again, either with another plugin or some custom code. So bringing that into ACF just made a whole lot of sense. And look, nice and simple. Number 6 is custom taxonomies. So this goes hand in hand with custom post types, the ability to add custom taxonomies. And we kind of think it's like the holy trinity of content modeling is custom fields, custom post types, and custom taxonomies. And when you set up your site, you sort of stitch those all together, and you can put some pretty cool stuff. So again, very similar. I'll just jump out and show you, but you can see under ACF, we've got taxonomies. I don't think I have any here. If I wanted to, I might want to add a genre taxonomy perhaps for movies. Probably should have done that. That's a good idea. Number 7. Okay, this one's really cool. This one took a whole lot of good engineering work from the team when we released this one. Is bidirectional relationships. And what this means, if you've ever had to do this with ACF, you get it. And it's awesome when you get it right, but it's been a bit of a wrangle. If you've not had to do it before, so it's like construction going on in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. I hope it's all right. It's when you update a piece of data against a particular post that has a relationship to another post, the data is updated in both directions. I'll give you an example that might sound a bit weird. So it's useful when you have things that can be associated with multiple other things. So using our movies and directors sort of idea, movies might have a single director, although not always. Sometimes they, as we know, in sort of modern Star Wars land, the directors can change a bit. But typically, movie has a single director, but directors can have many movies. So there's relationships between these. We want to store these relationships in our database, but they go in both directions. A movie has directors, director has movies, and we want to set that up in a way that is easy for us to manage. What we don't want to have to do is that if I'm in here as a content creator and I go add in the movie, Hook, great 1990s film, by the way, the Robin Williams one, and I add that in to my website, add Hook, and then I select the director. Pretty sure that was a Spielberg movie. I select the director, and then I don't want to have to go over to Steven Spielberg's entry and then add Hook to him in the editor. I don't want to have to go to both posts and edit them independently to make that connection, happen in both directions. What I want to do is that when I add Steven Spielberg to Hook, I want Hook to be added to Steven Spielberg automatically. And that's the way we can do that now within ACF. There's some good documentation on that, a great guide on the ACF website. I could show you. How are we going for time? I won't walk through that right now with you. I'm mindful of time, but just to say that it is really easy now within the interface. Basically, as you add the field or you configure the field, as long as you set it up as a relationship field, you can toggle on bi-directional relationship, and you can set that up. So go to the website if you want to check out the documentation, and to figure that out. Super valuable. Let us continue. Installing via Composer. Again, before I referenced the value of being able to do things within code. Obviously, WordPress is great to install plugins. You can drag the zip file in, or you can install via the WordPress.org repo. But for individuals or teams that want to manage their dependencies, and that's what a plugin is, it's a dependency within code, often they use Composer, and you can install that with Composer. You've been able to do that for a long time with the free version of ACF, but you can now do that with ACF Pro as well. And again, there's documentation on this, but basically you add our Composer repository URL to your Composer JSON file. You log into your ACF Pro account, and you can find your credentials there. You can, sorry, apologies if that screenshot's a little bit small, but you can see that there. And then you add that to your server locally, and then also on the live server. And then it's a simple Composer command to install it. Again, check out the documentation, URL at the bottom, under the resources, installing ACF Pro with Composer. But if you like to manage your dependencies with Composer, you can manage ACF either free or Pro quite easily now, which is great. Number 9, headless WordPress. I referenced earlier the value, I should let them maybe say the trend that we observed, that when people were doing headless with WordPress, they were often using ACF. And so it always has been great for that, but a lot of our investment over the last 12 months has sort of really underlined that. Again, we're adding the custom post types and custom taxonomies, but even extending the way that it works well with WP GraphQL plugin, which is a plugin which allows you to query WordPress using GraphQL, which is great. So just sort of building out ACF's value for those that build for headless WordPress. So when you're doing headless WordPress, typically you're doing a lot of structured kind of data within your content modeling. Again, ACF obviously is fantastic for that. Interesting release that came out in the last few months from our Atlas team at WP Engine. Atlas is the representation of all of our awesome headless technology. And they released a co-package called React Gutenberg Bridge. Now, if you are doing headless WordPress, check this out, because what it does is it allows you to interact with content that is produced within the block editor, the native WordPress block editor, and surface that to your front end templating. In this case, this package obviously leans in on React and Next.js. So check that out. If you're in that sort of zone, doing that sort of stuff, and you're wanting to find better ways to interact with the WordPress block editor within a headless context, React Gutenberg Bridge is definitely something to check out. And broadly, check out Atlas, everything that we have there. Obviously, at WP Engine, we have Atlas, which is our headless. It's more than just headless WordPress hosting, but it very much is that. It's a paired WordPress instance with a Node.js instance, but not just the environment. It's the way those two things interact. It's all of our tooling around it. We have Faust, which is our Next.js sort of template optimized for headless WordPress. There's a lot of really, really good resources, educational resources. So if you're in headless WordPress and you're doing ACF stuff, especially, make sure you check out everything that the Atlas team is doing. One other thing to call out that was released, I think, last week. This is fresh in the news. WP Engine has released a add-on called Smart Search. And if you've ever used native WordPress search, you know that it's terrible. And it's really, really common, which is fine, because I don't think WordPress should out of the box offer a rich search experience, because search is so subjective to whatever app or website is being built. So I think bringing that into core would get just way too crazy. So I think it belongs to third-party plugins or services. But WP Engine now has Smart Search. This had, again, our origins in the investments we were making into headless WordPress, interestingly, and what we were seeing work really well there, we brought back and made available to standard WordPress. And it's worth calling out because it is especially optimized for ACF. I know that a lot of the other sort of plugins or third-party search services that people use with WordPress, you got to do a little bit of wrangling to have it work well with ACF. It can be done, and people have been doing it. But smart search out of the box works really well with ACF. So worth calling out because a recent release from the team, that's pretty exciting stuff. Ooh, coming soon. This is what you all hung around for. Thanks for hanging around. All right, field validation for blocks. So I mentioned very early today in this session, validation and conditional sort of stuff. And that works in your typical field groups and fields, but not all of that has yet translated over to custom blocks. So very soon, before the end of the year, we're working on a release that will basically bring a bit more parity there. Basically, so the validation that you can do with your fields with normal field group stuff against posts and pages, you're gonna be able to do for custom blocks as well, which is great. Again, like I said earlier, for the content editing experience, it means that you as the freelancer or developer or agency, you're passing through what you need to under the control that you need it to have to the content editor. And that ensures that, the quality of the data going into your database is maintained. And this is another big one, again, for custom blocks, is that we are enabling the ability to save fields that are associated with custom blocks to the post meta table and currently defaults to the post content, because that all block editor content goes into the post content table. But we typically think about fields as belonging to the post meta. And so we're now giving that option. So watch this space. We'll have some interesting news, hopefully in the next few months around that. But that's been something that a lot of folks have been asking with their custom block, like they want to be able to choose whether or not that is stored again in the post content or the post meta table. So that's exciting. And I think I actually have one more thing as well. Sneaky number 13, which I don't have a slide for, again with custom block, is that you saw earlier when I registered my custom block, I had to do that in code. Used my functions.php file within my theme. We are surfacing that within the UI in the same way we put options pages and post types and taxonomies in the UI and made it easy to register there. We're bringing that to custom blocks as well. So shortening and simplifying that experience of creating custom blocks, which is great. ACF, if you're just checking it out for the first time, there is a free version of ACF, which is super, super feature rich, available on the WordPress.org plugin repo. Of course, there is ACF Pro as well, which custom blocks is a feature of ACF Pro, for example. The repeater field and a few other things. Basically, if you're starting to lean on ACF, ACF Pro for me is an absolute no-brainer. But check those out. AdvancedCustomFields.com is the website. Also, though, if you want to continue to sort of see great content around ACF or even our headless and Atlas stuff or lots and lots of other great things about WordPress, join sort of our builders community. So wpengine.com/builders, lots of great resources and community access. If you're an agency developer or a freelancer or a tinkerer or a hobbyist, but if you like to play with WordPress, I encourage you to go check out the builders team and see everything that they're creating. I think that's everything. Thank you. Cheers. Any questions?
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. There has been one question that's come through from the chat from Lizeldi. Is there a limitation to how many ACFs you can add? Also, is there any noted issues, conflict with having too many ACF added to your posts?
So I'm guessing you mean how many fields you can add? No limitation. I mean, all things with websites and technology, eventually will start to have performance question marks that you'll need to address. But that is not an ACF thing. That is something to do with, like, if you try to run WordPress with 20,000 posts on a tiny server, like, you'll obviously hit some sort of performance issues. Same sort of mentality. If you're adding lots of field groups, interesting complexity, and lots and lots of fields, but then also it's also subject to the way that your templates, be they the custom blocks, for instance, depends how you code those up to interact with that data as well. So it's a bit of a it depends answer. Sorry for that. Those are always really lame answers. But generally, no, there is no limit. You can just add them. There's no physical limit. Like you can add as many as you want. Like the plugin's not going to tell you to stop. But it's how that performs on your website, literally from a performance standpoint, is subject to your host, how your resources are configured, and then how your front end templating is built as well. The last question, besides custom CSS.
Stuart, hey, you're on mute. I think Stu has a question. He's just muted.
Oh, go Stuart.
Sorry, Rob. There was a last question that came through from chat as well. Feel free to use the chat, guys, if there's any questions. Besides custom CSS for styling purposes, is there, or for future development, another way to style ACFs?
So I'm guessing the question is like, is there like an interface for like, choosing colors or body arrays or styling within ACF? I would say no, only because that step, not in a bad way, but it steps into a category of plugin that really can get pretty gnarly. And I would say, I've always said it like this: ACF is front end agnostic. And it means that you can template however you want. And you can do that. Like ACF intentionally steps back and says, I want to help you set up your data, set up your content editing experience, but then it's up to you how you template and, in this case, write CSS or styling for the front end. Now, and ACF actually works really well with a number of like the big page builders. I know Elementor has really good, and Beaver Builder have really good ACF support. So like if you're looking for an interface that gives you styling options through a UI versus having to write CSS, it's probably better to look at those page builders and then how they work with ACF. No plans to bring that sort of GUI interface into ACF for styling. Yeah, no, it's a great question. Definitely a great question.
Cool. Just keeping in mind of time as well. This is the final question, Rob, for you. What is your favorite movie?
Oh, Hook. From the 1990s, Hook.
Oh.
Amazing. I think it's like one of those movies. I've not watched it basically since I was a kid as well. And I think it's one of those movies that I'm afraid to watch again, because in my mind, in my childhood memory, it's amazing. And I don't want to spoil that. It might be amazing still, I don't know, but it's a scary thing. But I love Hook. What's yours, Stuart? From the 90s, what's your favorite?
I guess the only thing that was available through our cassette was Lion King. That was on repeat every day growing up.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, that soundtrack.
Hook, that's pretty good. Is that the one with Rob Williams?
Yeah, exactly. Space Jam, Blubber. Another Robin Williams movie.
The Goonies.
Oh, Space Jam. Oh, that's a close second, actually. I did love Space Jam as a kid. Great.
Well, without further ado, the Blues Brothers. Ricky. Without further ado, I guess if there's any questions, we'll include Rob Stinson's details in the follow-up email. Again, if there's any feedback from today or any questions, please send them across. But again, thank you so much for your time, Rob, and also for everyone joining in on today's session. Hope you found today's session valuable. Look forward to connecting with you on our next one.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.